And that is why this bill, among the raft of measures that we are bringing for marine conservation, is so vital, and I commend it to the House.
Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Can I just begin by wishing you and all members of the House and their families a very happy New Year. I think it's going to be a busy one ahead of us, a year in which many of us go through our 3-yearly job interview process, and one which you will happily, by the look on your face, Mr Speaker, avoid by your own choice this year. Can I next commend the Minister of Conservation for this legislation? It's not very often that we get bills in the House that are supported by every speaker, but this is one of those measures, and it really is an indication of the passion and commitment that New Zealanders have to better protection of our environment, including our marine areas. But it's not always that we get a Minister of Conservation who does those things, who pushes them along, and I have to say, he wouldn't say this, but I will, I think pushes them along against the tide of his own cabinet. So that shows, a bit of political nous, a bit of courage, and whatever other trickery was used to get this past the Stephen Joyce radar. I want to commend the Minister of Conservation because it's very good stuff. I'm very fortunate to have been to some of the Subantarctic islands, and of the 3 we're offering better protection to tonight, only one, Campbell Island, and they're just extraordinary. They are mind-changing when you see life in the Subantarctic and the Antarctic, so I'm particularly pleased to be supporting this legislation, as is Labour. There are some other areas, though, on which the Government and the Minister of Conservation, I think, needs to do a bit of rethinking, recalibrating, and some of it needs to be done with some urgency. There are 2 areas that I just want to make comment on before I return back to the key points in the legislation. The first is what has been a very controversial proposal and debated with some heat in this House, in which I have to express the opposite of what I recently commented on in terms of the Minister of Conservation and his actions. When I supported him on this legislation, I feel exactly the opposite in terms of the role of the Department of Conservation in the proposal for the Ruataniwha Dam. That dam in the Hawke's Bay uses an entirely new model called the TRIM model, where the proponents of it, the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, has said that it should be disregarded what changes to the nitrate level in the river are caused by the dam. That's new. It is frustrating scientists. It is frustrating scientists, and the Board of Inquiry process has not been able to give enough time for robust discussion and consideration of that new model. And that's not a criticism of that shows the ignorance on this particular matter of the Minister of Conservation, and he'd be wise not to have comments like that said in a way they can be recorded in Hansard's, because they will come back to bite him, and I would guarantee they'll come back to bite him. So he's advised not to do that from my perspective, although I'd enjoy it politically if he put some more of those ignorant, ill-informed comments on the record in Hansard's. So the Board of Inquiry has not got the ability to give the time because of the constraints that are put on it by the ministers who set up the Board of Inquiry. So this is not, and that's how ministers make instructions, through law. Mr Speaker, this is not a criticism of any members individually of the Board of Inquiry. They're doing what they're required to do, but it means that on a brand new model, which has never been considered in New Zealand before, which has the potential to turn the Tukituki River toxic because of the level of nitrates caused by the dam, the Minister of Conservation has supported his department having no role at all to play in that proposal other than a very minor one, despite the fact they had spent a lot of money, a lot of time, and had put very high quality expertise into preparing a submission that challenged the model. So that has to be wrong, in my view. if we have public servants who know what they're doing, who are competent to express a view, and are stymied by some sort of political process from doing that because it doesn't suit the political irrigation agenda of the government, that is wrong, and we should not have the good people of Hawke's Bay not only subsidising the dam for 120 farmers, but risking their river being turned toxic as a result. So for all the praise of the marine legislation, so for all the proposals that we support in this bill, creating the 3 new marine reserves, it pales into insignificance, which is a tragedy, because we should be able to celebrate good progress in this House if only it was consistent. There's another area that I want to talk about, and that's in the area of dolphin protection. There was a protest a little while ago outside the front of Parliament. There were more people at that protest than there are Maui's dolphins left on the planet. And yet, when all the submissions to the latest extensions were being called for, the Minister of Conservation and the Minister of Fisheries went for the least possible protection extension. It is an extension. But in my view, when you have only 55 dolphins left, not just 55 around here, 55 on the planet, what bit of critically endangered does the Minister of Conservation not understand? There cannot be fewer, and that species have a future. So we should take the precautionary approach. Every possible measure that was supported by the best marine scientists should have been picked up. The Minister is once again giving me a fantastic political opportunity, because again he is showing his lack of understanding of the very submissions that were sent to him. I don't think he's read them. I don't think the Minister read the submissions that said we need the best possible protection. The precautionary approach must apply when we have a critically endangered species that is our responsibility to protect. There were 21,000 submissions on that proposal. Did the Minister read the submissions? Did the Minister read 21,000 submissions on the... so did the Minister read 21? Did the Minister read 21? No, I just asked that, and you said, no, I didn't read 21,000, but actually there were 21,000. There have never been more submissions on any proposal, according to the Ministry of Primary Industries senior staff member. On the public record said we've got more submissions about this issue than ever before. So we missed the opportunity, in my view, to adopt the most responsible position possible. And, well, there you are. The Minister should have read my submission, because that outlines Labour's position. Actually, that would have been a big help. And Mr. Speaker, the other issue that our lack of protection risks is the future of the fishing industry in New Zealand. In my view, we should have the government backing not just the Maui's dolphins, but also the fishing industry. If we were able to support our fishing industry to transition to sustainable fishing, we would not only save the dolphins, we would not only save the seabird bycatch, we would be able to say we have the first in the world sustainable fishing industry, and what an export brand advantage that would be. So then we'd be winning. Then our whole country would be winning. The Maui's dolphins could be saved, a large number of seabird bycatch could be saved, and we could have a brand label of sustainable fishing which would make our fish popular, instead of currently where international experts are calling for a ban on people buying our fish. How can the Minister of Fisheries Let that proceed. Mr Speaker, it's irresponsible and it's tragic. Just going back to the bill, I want to again commend the Minister. He does show courage, he does show passion, and I believe he's got a strong personal commitment to conservation issues, and that is well reflected in this legislation, which I'm delighted to support.
Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you,